Welcome, everybody. It's so good to be here with you. My name is Joseph. Of course, we have Adam and Steve with us, and I think everybody's excited to see the man himself, Max. Max, welcome on the stream. Can you hear us okay, Max?
There we go. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Cool.
Welcome on the stream.
Thank you.
So today we are going to be covering one of the largest modernization efforts in the history of Alibre, and we are glad that everyone here is going to be part of that history. I don't know, Max, do you want to give it an intro or anything?
Sure thing, guys. First of all, my audio video setup is being a little janky right now, so if bear with me if it goes out, I'll be back. I don't usually jump on these streams. I'm the CEO of Alibre, and I don't usually jump on the streams because the guys do such a great job. But in this case, I just wanted to kind of join everybody because it's such a monumental moment for us. Um, this release is something that we've been working on for probably the better part of 2 years, and represents kind of some really core philosophical changes moving forward, some really cool modernization efforts like Joseph is talking about, and some really cool possibilities for things that have been on the radar, like Mac support in the future, that may not be super obvious as to why this is so big at first glance. Um, so, uh, Philosophically, you know, our user interface, anytime you do a user interface change, people's first reaction is, um, you know, cool, maybe, I don't know if I'll like it, but, um, a new button would have been nice too. And however, the majority of the stuff that we get requests for are things like that you can boil them down into like, why doesn't this work like it should? Or why is it so unobvious? Or why does it take so many clicks to do stuff? And a lot of that really is user interface related. So one thing that we noticed is that the user interface hadn't really been updated for the better part of 20 years. The product looks old. A lot of things, especially for new users, are confusing. If you take the extrude boss dialog as an example, when you open it up in V28 or prior, half of the stuff is grayed out and you can't really use it. And that's a waste of space. So the old UI is kind of clutterful in its ability to obfuscate what's important, which is the model, with things that you can't really use at the time. You have to wade through mentally, like what's grayed out, why is it grayed out, and that takes cycles mentally. Um, and so, with we kind of took a first principles approach when considering what we were going to do for the new UI, and kind of boiled it down to a few key basics. Right, we wanted a top-down workflow, so your eye always knows where to go. Um, we show only what is usable at the time, um, and not a bunch of grayed out stuff. It's a very consistent um, approach to user interface, whereas the previous one did not have a lot of consistency in some places. So if you learn part of it, you kind of know all of it pretty immediately. Um, Leading up to this, we did a pretty significant amount of discussion with users on the forum. This is probably a year and a half ago at this point, maybe 2 years. Um, Showing them the proposal, getting a ton of feedback um, uh, on the basic structure of the UI, what it's going to look like, how it's going to act, and really involve the community in a lot of these decisions. And so we have a pretty high confidence that what we've done is going to be something that everybody's going to love. Um, when we start adding in things like the part library, which are going to be launching over the next maybe month or two, some of it will launch in the beta. Um, and as we move towards V29.1, which is going to be a big release in and of itself for Weldments, kind of significantly extend the Libre's capabilities in that arena, we start to find ourselves really well positioned for future releases. I wanted to touch just briefly on the Mac support thing. So we're certainly not announcing or promising Mac support at this time. However, one thing people may not realize is the reason that we haven't done that yet um, is that a lot of our infrastructure internally was tied to specific Windows technologies. And so it literally wasn't possible to go that direction or even start thinking about it until that wasn't the case. And the user interface was kind of the last piece of that. So we have not fully migrated away from that Windows technology, but we're real close. You know, we've got a few things like the system options um, that aren't migrated, and a handful of other things. But as of 29.1, that's going to be gone. And now we're actually legitimately talking about the potential for things like Mac support because we're no longer relying on those things. So 26 is going to be a really exciting year in terms of what we have planned for the future. But most immediately, 29.0 and 29.1, we're expecting to be pretty significant in terms of the daily feel that you get when using our software and the level of delight that you walk away with. So that being said, I will turn it over to Joseph or I assume Joseph, for a demo and some discussion on that, and we'll take it from there.
Well, thank you so much, Max. This is, again, really exciting for me. We'll switch to my screen over here. As Max said, this is the largest modernization effort in the history of Alibre, and every dialog box is overhauled and thoughtfully optimized. We've got a large focus on consistency between dialogues, usability, efficiency, discoverability, and how easy they are to use and learn. And again, this infrastructure puts us closer to a Mac version. Let us know what you think of that in the comments. And let's get started by taking a look at one of these dialog boxes in the new user interface. And what are the essential ingredients that make up this new dialog? Well, we have a top-down workflow. As you can tell, the old dialogues, you'd have to go side to side, up and down, but here there is a direction to how this dialogue is used and how every dialogue is used. And it makes it more simple to go straight down and get everything that you need. We also have something known as tooltips. If I say go to insert a plane, I have this little question mark right here that gives me some hints as to how to use the dialog. And this stops me from needing to go on the web and check out the documentation. And these tooltips update depending on whatever setting that I have in the dialog. This makes things much easier and straightforward to learn and use. Let's take a look at the old user interface for a second. We can see that when we open up dialogues in the old UI, they can open up anywhere. They open up from the last place that they were closed, and so any dialog box could be at any location. Now, if we happen to like that behavior, then it's still here in version 29, right? They'll open up where they were last, but there's a new option where I can click on dock. And docking ensures that that box stays at that location for every dialog box. And so you can always find your dialogues and not have something be unpredictable. We have some interesting new modes. You can tell that we've added lines here, and this increases the readability and organization of the dialogue. But power users who are very familiar with the software may want to have something that they can click and navigate even faster. So we have a new system option where instead of spacious, I can have a normal dialogue. And now those lines are removed and everything is more compact. This again is aimed at people who want to speed model or who are very familiar with this software. And we can compare that once again to what we've had before in the spacious mode that makes it easily readable. So every dialogue has these certain modes that make it fast to use or more readable. And I'll leave this on spacious mode for the rest of this demo here. Now, when we navigate, we would say that the old UI was sometimes something that we had to trudge through. Let's take a look at the old UI. When I open up a dialog box, there's lots of gray that takes up visual space. Again, over here, lots of gray. And over here, tools that just aren't being used at the moment, and it's something that makes it harder to navigate dialog boxes with. But in the new UI, instead of lots of gray, we have the option to add draft, and we can see the draft tools come up only if we need them. This is part of a philosophy of getting out of your way so that you can do what you would like, but you don't have to deal with settings that are grayed out or otherwise visually taking up space that makes you navigate a lot more. These dialog boxes have a focus with consistency with their spacing, with the wording, with the approach to get things done, all to make it much more streamlined and faster to work in Alibre. Now, we have some dialog boxes in the old UI that have multiple tabs. Let's take a look. When I go to make a helix, I have to tab over to advanced to get some of those options. This makes it so that not all of our options are very apparent, and it's a little bit harder to learn. But if we were to go make a helix in the new UI, all I have to do is check some boxes to see those options right in line. Again, making things much more streamlined and focused up front so that you have a lot less to navigate to do the exact same thing. We've heard some requests about icons. And if we take a look at our Loft boss, for example, we now have visual icons in all of our drop-down boxes that show exactly how this tool is going to work. Kind of like those tool tips that we saw earlier, this is a way that you can intuitively understand the tool better without having to go seek out documentation online or somewhere else. User feedback was also heard in things such as icons for extrude options. If we take a look at the old user interface here, we can see that when we go to extrude, I have to click on a drop-down to change the type and select the drop-down from a list. And if I want to change that again, select a drop-down, and again, select a drop-down. This makes a lot of clicks to do simple things in the old user interface, and this has been thoughtfully reimagined in the new version 29. If I go to make an extrude, and here I have an active sketch that I can work with, so I'll create an extrude, but we'll see that these icons are just one click away. So I can say, I want to go from the midplane, and just one click, and we'll see that extrude from the midplane there. Or I want to go in two directions with different measurements, right? These make it clear to read no matter what language you speak, and it's one single click, which is pretty nice. Now, I can add a draft onto this if I'd like, or something like that. All right, so there we can see single clicks on our dialog boxes. I think I'm actually adding material there. I meant to cut that in. So I'll hurry and do that. So there's our sketch, and I can add the draft as I would like. Now there's one interesting thing about this, and that is that we now have the option for favorites. Let's say that I have certain dimensions that are hard to remember, or dimensions that I use very, very often. Well, here's a menu where I have a bunch of preset dimensions, like my 8-degree draft here, that I can go and add a favorite value. Maybe I want 0.3255, and I can save that. And now that is in my favorites to where I can add or remove any dimension that I'd like, and it all works out quite smoothly. Okay, so there is a favorite menu for both dimensions and angles that we can keep preset values. Now we have larger and more consistent input sizes. So if I open up something like a fillet, right, people have left us comments and feedback about this number, that it's too small, and sometimes they get inconsistent with the rest of the user interface. So if you can tell, in this version of Alibre, we have increased the size. We've made these inputs consistent. We've made them easier to click, read, and change for not just fillets, but all of our inputs across the software. And finally, If you've been seeing this on dark mode, let's take a look at dark mode in the old user interface. Here we can see that we can make it into a dark mode, but our dialog boxes are still light. And for this new interface, we wanted to go with a true dark mode. Maybe some of you have caught on that our boxes match the dark mode and it's all visually consistent now. So we have a true enhanced dark mode in Alibre moving forward. Something else that's pretty important to mention, maybe I'll make a sketch on this face. Now, when I go to sketch on this face, maybe I want to project some of the elements of my model. So when I go to project to sketch, some of our feedback was that we want to not have to set default association. In fact, let's take a look at that in the old user interface. Here in the old user interface, when I want to project an element, we can see that I have to click maintain association as reference. And then if I need to do it again, I'm clicking that all over again, maintain association as reference, right? This was pretty difficult because it's a lot of clicking every single time that you want to project something. But here, I can click on an element and I can see maintain association as reference is default. And why is that? Because I set that as default using this set default button. So when you go to project things like sketches, you are going to be able to set that as a default. And likewise, we even have that with part color as well. I'll navigate back to my cylinder head here, and we can take a look at our part color interface. We can tell that the colors are much more arranged in an organized way. It's easier to set custom colors, and there's fewer clicks to set colors. But if I really like this green, I can simply click on Make Default. And if I go to make a new part in V29, there we go. I'll create a sketch and make a quick extrusion here. We can see that it comes in as that nice default green color. So setting these defaults across the UI are simple as clicking on Set Default. Along with favorite inputs, we have another piece of user feedback that I can say. So when I add a fillet here, it is going to fail. And we can take a look at what failing fillets and other failing features look like in the old UI. When I go to make a fillet, click on this edge and this one, and as I increase the size and it fails, we have a box telling us that it fails. And if I try to adjust the size, it fails again. I have to click this box over and over. It kind of gets in the way and it's very intrusive, but not anymore. When I go to add a fillet that fails, and this is failing right off the bat, I have a box down here that tells me that there's a failure, but it's nothing that I need to click through. In fact, I can keep adjusting the size and it keeps failing, but it does not get in my way. So I can keep trying new fillet sizes and new settings for other features until I find a size that I really like. So we'll apply that. So our error messages show up in the corner in a way that do not get into your way. A few other things that I think are pretty exciting about this release. Let me pull up a new part that I should have open here. There we go. I've got a sheet metal part here that I can, of course, easily flatten out. Let's take a look at sending this to a drawing. The first thing I'll do is send to, make a drawing of this design. And then we'll say OK there. And we'll see a new dialog box for the drawing environment. I think this is significantly better. There's no hidden menus in this. All of the information is right up front, and we can navigate it much more quickly. We can project as a flat pattern if I want to draw out the flat pattern, and I have this new option of bend notes. I'll make this scaled 1:1, and we'll see what those bend notes look like. Here, I'm able to see that I have my up and down notations that I can move on either side of the bend. And if things happen to get busy, we can always edit our annotation and add a leader line to it. But now we're able to, from the flat pattern, see up, down, degree of bend, and the radius of the bend all in one. This was a highly requested feature that should make it really slick to be able to work work with our sheet metal suppliers. Finally, we also have some toolbox updates. So let me jump into an assembly. And here in the assembly environment, I have my Alibre toolbox, and I have ANSI inch and ANSI metric. You'll notice there's not a samples folder anymore, and ISO and DIN and some of the other ones are all on the way as well. Under inch, I have things like structural components, C-channel, I-beams, bar stock. I have all different kinds of washers, whether it be lock washers or something else. We have keys, O-rings, pins, jig bushings, bolts. Gotta love bolts. So let's do a quick demonstration on what these bolts might look like. I'll do a hex head structural bolt here. So we have a rapid, massive expansion of toolbox parts that should make it way, way easier to get off-the-shelf parts instead of going to McMaster-Carr, trying to import, trying to convert to the right format, and so on. So we can actively configure our toolbox parts, and it defaults to cosmetic, which is the best choice, but we also have modeled threads if you're doing 3D printing or something like that. But all of these, whether they be E-clips or structural members or bolts, are all actively configurable and going to come with Alibre very soon. Once again, we're going to be seeing some exciting enhancements with ISO, DIN, and other standards coming to Toolbox as well. With that being said, maybe we can jump back here. And Max, if you're still with us, did you have anything, or do we have any questions or comments from the chat?
I don't think I have anything revelatory at this point.
All right. I saw some awesome comments that I wanted to show a spotlight on. I love this one. With regards to UI, we're still light years ahead. So I think it's only going to get better from here. I saw another comment way in the beginning about a Mac version. So hopefully that will have answered that when we talked about it. And I saw one other one about will there be a Libre for Linux? I don't know, Max, if you have any comments about that one.
Yeah, so I'll just touch on the Mac Linux thing. So we've been talking about Mac and Linux, at least fielding requests for it for a decade or longer. And like I said previously, it was something that we had to say, sure, maybe at some point, right? Because we were so far away from it that it wasn't just due to these technical things that we have in the product, that it wasn't really practical. It is at the first point reasonably practical to start evaluating those seriously. So especially after 29.1, which is not that far away, after 29, we're going to be probably starting to take a look at that. Full disclosure, it may not happen. I don't know. We need to look. And if it does happen, we will probably start with Mac, simply because there's more of them and they tend to have the philosophy of paying for things, which is always good for a business. You know, it's not free for us to do this. Most notably, a pretty big ongoing concern, because all of a sudden we're in the position to have to do quality assurance for 3 different operating systems multiplied by God knows what hardware every time we ship something, right? And so it's a pretty serious investment on our part to offer that support. So that's why we're going to be focusing on probably Mac first. It may be that things are easier than we surmise, and porting goes well. and we can kind of just do it. I don't know. So there will be news of some kind related to Mac and Linux in 26. I'm not saying it's going to be a release, but at least we'll have a clearer picture of like whether we're going to do it, and if so, when. Saw another comment around surfacing. So I'll quickly address that. We do, in fact, have some exciting surfacing news. I'm not going to share it right now, but in terms of V30, a pretty significant chunk of that product, at least as currently planned, is going to be advanced surfacing, right? We have surfacing tools today. They're not surfacing design tools. They're surfacing modification tools, and you can kind of use them in some specific workflows, but you're not going to design a consumer product with those tools. So we're looking to change that at a high level. I'll leave it at that. But some of the stuff that we're looking at is pretty advanced as well. And so the comment for that surfacing question was related to aerospace, and perhaps pretty likely that you're going to be happy at some point soon. What else? I saw another question somewhere.
I like that. You guys rock on drawing pattern updates. Been waiting for this to be easier. So that's always great to hear. We do try.
You're mentioning advanced surfacing, and Joseph is just spinning in his chair, just loving it.
Yep. People know I do love surfacing, and that this is going to be an awesome boon to get really amazing surfaces out there.
Yeah. We got a question. There's no current changes on what's available in each version. That is staying the same. Toolbox and hardware stuff is available in Expert, I believe. I'm almost positive that that's true, and not in Pro.
Is the sheet metal material updates updated? I changed the metal thickness. I have to save, close, and reopen for the thickness of the metal to change.
Someone else responded to that one and said that theirs is working. So I'm wondering.
Mine's working too for that.
Might be worth a reinstall right quick just to see. Sometimes Windows likes to get a little interesting with stuff like that. My last Windows install was very corrupt, to say the least. So,
yeah.
To talk real quickly about the part library, we currently have internally ANSI Inch, ANSI Metric, I think ISO, and maybe DIN done. We're going to be launching probably ANSI Inch, ANSI Metric during the beta. And it may not be immediately obvious that that has occurred. So just be aware that the way that you find that is you're going to dynamically download it by going to the System Options Toolbox section. And as they become available, you will see little boxes that say, hey, ANSI's available, ANSI Inch, ANSI Metric, DIN, whatever they are. And you can choose which ones you want. And at that point, the software will download them for you and then put them into the toolbox so you go to see them. So just keep an eye out there. We'll probably post something on the forum. And to the extent that people on here are interested in the beta, a big part of beta is hearing from you. We want to hear what is good, what is bad. You'll notice on the bottom of the beta screen, there's a happy face and a sad face. And the happy face is for you to tell us what you love about it, or ways that you think we could improve. And the sad face is for like, you're having a problem. You want to report a bug. So definitely use those because that gives us information that we need. And, but second, and equally importantly, is your participation in the user forum. So we have a V29 beta user forum. If you have questions, thoughts, conundrums, whatever, go on there and talk about it, make a post. We often have lively debates between Alibre and the customers, and they're really positive. A lot of times customers advocate strongly for a position that we don't necessarily initially think is the right move, but we become convinced. and we like to be really open-minded in that area. And that's why a whole lot of specific things in this release are the way they are, because people advocated for them and made a case. And then we eventually agreed and said that's a good idea. So we love having that discussion with you guys. And if everybody on here made a forum account and went to the V29 beta and started talking about it, we would have a remarkably good discussion around that. Although you're going to love the beta, and so I'm sure there'll be nothing negative to say whatsoever. Anyway.
I can see another question here. Can I try out the beta on an existing project without affecting the project? I'm going to say do a package it and open the package that you copied from in the beta so that you don't have any back-saving issues, but probably don't open up your original project in the beta version, if you'd agree.
We have a, we have to say this. It's usually not true, but we have to say it, right? Like, we're in beta, don't use it on your production work. Now, is it going to be a problem? Probably not. Might it be? Possibly. Occasionally we do a schema change. And all you need to know about what that means is that sometimes we have to change the way saves work to support stuff. And if we were to do a schema change and you saved your stuff in an earlier version, it's not going to open in any version of the software moving forward, because the software won't understand it. So that's the primary thing we look out for. It's just a good idea to work on duplicate copies of your data. Don't oversave anything that's super important. It would probably be fine, but don't. That's just a position Alibre has to take because we don't know with certainty. But we're 98% sure, but not 100. So.
Yeah. We do have a question about expected release dates for 29 and 29 dot. This is a very common one that I see, so I'm just trying to monopolize all the good ones.
Yeah. So 29 is going to depend on how the beta goes. Assuming we don't find any just grotesque things, and I doubt we will, then 29's the beta is probably going to be reasonably short, maybe 2 or 3 weeks. Of course, sometimes things change and lively discussion happens, and we say, you know what, you guys are right. We're going to spend an extra week doing this. The bar is high at this point for something like that to happen, but it's possible. But I would imagine, maybe within 30 days, something like that. After the beta goes, we've got a few internal things that we need to do, but it doesn't take a long time. So we're within spitting distance here. 29.1 is a little bit more complicated, but our intent was to have a fast follow release. And because that's a whole new workspace, right? I mean, there's parts, sheet metal drawings. Now there's going to be weldments. It's a non-trivial functionality that we're implementing that has to do with design, drawings, all kinds of stuff, bombs. So we've made great progress there. I'm hopeful that within maybe 2 months or something like that, after we release 29, that's going to come out. It's going to be reasonably soon. It's not going to be 7 months or anything like that, but we don't have a firm date yet.
Gotcha. This was an interesting one. I'd literally throw money at you, which I kind of want that experience myself. That importing STL converts to a dumb solid that I can extrude or add to. I learned on Alibre in school and still use it in my classes today, which is pretty cool. It's cool that you learned on it.
So I don't want to share too early, but we hear you. Lord knows we hear you. And as part of the high-level multi-year plan that we have for the current product trajectory, letting you open a mesh is in there. Being able to do something with that mesh is highly dependent upon what you want to do with it. This is the thing where your feedback is very important on the forum. If all you want to do is open a mesh and view it, that's actually pretty easy to implement. When we start converting to solids, that means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. So imagine a sphere STL file with 100,000 triangles. You probably don't want 100,000 triangles and facets on your model. You want Alibre to say, this is a sphere. Give me something as if I did a revolve boss, like a single surface, that kind of thing. So now we're talking about interpreting what the STL file means and then doing some kind of reconstruction around it. That is a very, very different problem. So anyway, long story short, the idea of being able to import mesh files is on our radar. We will probably ship something related to that concurrently with V30. What you'll be able to do with it, you'll definitely be able to reference it in some way. Whether you can convert it to a solid in V30, probably not, maybe. But when we kind of zoom out to what V30 is, we've got mesh import, most likely. We have surfacing. We may start to have point cloud import at some point. And you start to see a trajectory where things like if the kind of tools you would need for reverse engineering, broadly speaking, begin to come into play, because those need a pretty broad set of things to work properly. And the byproduct of that is that those workflows are going to start getting fleshed out pretty well. So it's coming. It's coming at some point. It is on the radar, and I won't say much more than that. I've probably said too much already.
Now, if we have custom libraries of ANSI parts like cchannel, how careful do we need to be when we upgrade, when the time comes and built-in libraries are available? So will we lose built-in libraries if we upgrade? I would say no matter what, just have a copy of your custom parts regardless. But
yeah, I agree with Joseph. Be reasonable in your backup efforts, especially if they're all in one place and you can right-click add to zip. But the way that we have designed the mechanisms for adding and then over time re-adding or updating the default libraries that we're going to ship with should not touch anything that you have in there. We had a fairly lengthy internal discussion about this very thing. So it shouldn't mess with anything that you have. That being said, take reasonable precautions. Anything can happen, but we've designed it to not monkey with your stuff.
As Max knows, I'm a pretty cautious guy, so that's probably in line with how I think too.
Yeah, to be fair, Joseph, just to add to that, I probably, as a probably the least experienced person with the Libre in terms of professional use, I definitely would execute good backup precautions on all of my critical files that I cannot afford to lose because I've spent so much time with them. But yeah, I think that's sound advice.
Let me add a quick caveat to this, because I'm not maybe entirely being truthful. It depends on what you have updated, what you have modified. So if you just made your own file entirely and it is not named any of our files, they're not going to be touched in the update process. But part of the beauty of the toolbox is you can go into any of the data that we're going to give you and you can do whatever you want with it. So, however, we're not going to know that you've done something with it. So if you edit, we're going to ship with, you said cchannel stuff, we're going to ship with structural members, and you may go in and modify those, right? Maybe you add stuff or delete half the data, whatever. We're not going to know that you've done that. And so our files that we ship with, when you update them in the future, may get overridden. So just be aware of that. Our assumption there was that most people probably are not going to be doing this. And the libraries that we're going to be shipping with are pretty comprehensive. Maybe didn't hit everything, but probably for most people's use cases, this is not going to be a concern. So my recommendation would be if you do want to do that, maybe copy paste the Excel file and the part file, name them the same, but have your own name for important files, so that our update mechanism in the future won't overwrite that.
Gotcha. And yep, he says if I just need to read the upgrade instructions, I can do that. So we did have a big beta, and Adam, Steve, this could be some of your first time seeing a walkthrough on all of the main features that we covered. What do you guys think?
I like it. I like a lot of the changes. I want to, I love my dark mode, so I love seeing the UI all in dark mode. Excuse me. Man, I love seeing all this come to fruition, because I know it's been kind of a thing that's been in the works for a long time, like Max said. And I think it's going to make the software a lot easier. Really, the only thing that I won't say I don't like it, I'll just say it's different. The only thing that I am still going to have to work through is the new extrude boss and extrude cut, because before I could just shift tab and use an up and down arrow, which I have to use the mouse now. But that's about it. Everything else is so much cleaner. Not a lot of grayed out stuff. Not a lot of extra when I don't need it. Things like that. I like it.
You don't have to use the mouse. You can just talk to the software now and say, "It's April 1st. I had to do something."
You mean like ask Gemini or ChatGPT or?
For me, looking at the UI walkthrough, it's really nice to see the usability being improved from a new person's perspective. So those tooltips and the additional screen real estate that we're going to have access to as new users coming in, it's going to hopefully make that learning curve a little bit less steep. If you're transitioning from other CAD applications, a lot of these features are going to be somewhat native and understood, but coming in from ground zero, anything that makes that experience a little bit gentler is always welcome. So I'm pleased to see that for sure.
Yeah, when you look at kind of what we've done in this release, like there's nothing groundbreaking here, right? I mean, we're not going to the moon. However, like we've all used Libre for a long time, right? It's not without the experience of using it. It's not without occasional frustration, just like any software. And a lot of that, when you look at why it can be frustrating, they're small things. Why do I have to do 3 clicks to do this random thing? Why, when I type data in here and then I go back, it doesn't remember what I did? Why can't I set a default for project to sketch? I always do the same thing, and it's not the default that you guys have, and that's so annoying because I got to click it every single time. The feeling you get from those things cumulatively can be significant. And this release really is intended to, you're gonna open it up, you're gonna use it, and you're gonna go, that was really nice. That's the goal, right? As you start to get used to it and start to dive deeper into the different workflows and realize, there's so much to show. Every dialogue has been updated. So there's no way we could show you the breadth of what we've done on a stream like this. But our expectation is that it is likely that the more you use it and you start discovering these little gems, like, oh, look, they changed that. That's really cool. And there's a lot of that stuff across the whole product. I mean, every dialogue that we looked at, we first asked, why is this currently annoying, if it is, and how can we make it better? So cumulatively, all those things together, our hope is that you're going to use the product and then kind of walk away with like, wow, I'm glad they did that. The experience of using the software is more efficient. It is less frustrating, and it feels nicer. It's prettier, like the whole shebang. So that was kind of the purpose of this release.
Yeah, that's a great question. So the concern is will the files be corrupted by the beta because of a bug that has not been worked out? Well, that's why it's in beta, and we say don't use production work on it, because when it's pretty unlikely that that's going to happen, but better safe than sorry, right?
Yeah.
This is great. As someone who always cringes whenever I'm used to I can't read today. As someone who always cringes whenever I'm used to seeing something being modernized, what I've seen so far makes me optimistic. So I think we're modernizing in the right direction here.
I think that's a good question down there about the hotkeys. Do you want me to pull that one up, Joseph?
Yeah, let's do it.
So I hope the new UI doesn't mess with keyboard and auto hotkey shortcuts too much. He's got crazy custom shortcuts.
So I did find that most of, obviously, like the keyboard shortcuts and all that kind of stuff did pull from my V28 user info. So all of my custom colors and all that kind of stuff all pulled just fine for me. Some of the workflow is just a teensy bit different. Like I was just saying, the extrude, boss, and cut menus look a little different. But for the most part, I think you're not going to have any trouble with that.
Anything internally to Alibre, like our shortcuts, probably is not going to be affected. As far as auto hotkey, probably, I'm sure, at a minimum, right? Some dialogues just have different interactions now. So if you had an auto hotkey script that said go to extrude boss and select from the dropdown, whatever, well, that dropdown doesn't exist anymore. It's now a button. So like there's places where we've just changed the way the user interface works. I'm not super familiar with auto hotkey, but at a high level, I have an understanding of what it does. And so I imagine some things will be affected, some things won't. There's probably work to do if you have a highly customized thing there, but I doubt it's going to be significant in terms of what you need to change.
Yes.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, greetings to Stu3D, by the way. If you guys don't know, on the forum, he came out with a really amazing keyboard that has hotkey and shortcuts built right into the keyboard. And yeah, so it's great to see one of our forum members that I can recognize here. And we have Costas on the line. How you doing, Costas?
Hey guys, how are you? Let me try and fix my webcam and not break it. There you go. That worked.
Hello. Welcome to the party.
Hello. Hey Adam. Hey Steve. Hey Max. Very nice to see you here.
Thanks.
We got Cow Tools in the chat. As a CEO of a software company, find it interesting that Max has a bunch of bugs behind him. I just want to say they are all dead bugs.
V30, V26, V27.
They've all been squashed. All those bugs have been squashed. They're not live. They've been squashed.
There you go. Yep. That's a trophy cabinet.
Yeah.
Yes.
We got a question about PDM. I'm not sure what the question is, but PDM, the big news in this release for PDM is that PDM now has an API. And so if you're the kind of guy who likes to use APIs for stuff, or woman who likes to use APIs for stuff, that's now available. There's actually an active discussion from some of our more software engineering focused members in the beta thread on the forum about those capabilities and what you can do with them. Very active development that you can kind of check out there. Other than that, no significant changes have been made to PDM. I think for 29, there's probably a handful of small things, but nothing huge.
I remember that is a very hotly debated issue, and that a lot of people wanted to have API for the PDM. I remember many people requesting it.
Yeah. Any chance for global parameters for Atom 3D? Nope. Sorry.
But let's just say this: no chance for global parameters, but you can get a lot of that functionality, not all of it, but a lot of it, through the Excel add-on, right?
Yeah,
Which
there are
is
many ways to
which
skin
is
cats. Not that we recommend skinning
yeah,
cats.
different way to skin cats, exactly. But if it works, why not?
I want to but we've got to have something different, right? And it's a pretty powerful thing. For a long time, we said we'd never do the whole tool and threads and all that stuff for Atom, and then
Yeah.
we did modeled threads and said y'all have fun. So it's stuff trickles down, but that's probably not going to be something that trickles down soon.
No, actually, I kind of like that structure because you do have the Excel add-on in Atom, which you can do all sorts of stuff. I've done a couple of videos on that. And then in Expert, where you have the global parameters, the Excel add-on can operate on the global parameters. So you can use all of the logic functions and whatever else Excel has. So it's a logical tier system on that very specific respect.
And I like this question. What is PDM? In case anybody is wondering, I'll jump into that. So here on the home screen, I've got this PDM browser. It's a safe, and it keeps track of a bunch of projects. And I have all kinds of projects in here. I have a large steam engine, a door handle, brackets, lifting jack. And this allows multiple teams to be able to work together on the same thing. So I've got some colleagues in Texas, and they can log into my PDM and actually see the files that I'm working on. They can make changes, so it allows teams to collaborate, and it's an insurance policy, more or less, against engineering chaos. So if I have a large steam engine down here, and I highlight it, right, I can see a little preview. I can see where it is used, if anywhere, which this is a top-level assembly. Still loading this very large file here. We also have different versions. We can see who's working on it, who checked it in, who made changes. We can restore previous versions, and we can have traceability of every individual subassembly and part within this. And so here's some examples of how things have been checked in with different comments. We can see all of its constituents and trace their locations. So it organizes a lot of chaos and allows teams to work together. And that is PDM in a nutshell. Hopefully I said it pretty well.
It's how you manage all your data. That's what it is.
Yep, there's a great deal of different kinds of metadata, and we can make custom metadata as well and keep track of all of that. So that is what PDM is.
Cool.
All right. So are we good to move on maybe to see little Weldments if somebody hasn't seen Weldments before? What do you think?
You've got to tease us all with that, of course. Give us our daily bread here.
Absolutely.
I'm getting the sense that Weldments are going to be the new surfaces for Joseph.
They might be, because I'm doing it a lot, actually. So let me get the other version of V29, and I have switched versions to show the PDM here.
And Joseph is now just showboating at this point. Right?
I think so.
It was so exciting, right? It was really exciting.
Yes, being able to see Weldments was awesome.
No, I mean, not just that. It's that for whatever purposes I've used Weldments in SolidWorks in the past, I haven't used, anything other than what we showed in the last preview. I mean, every tool that I've used in Weldments in SolidWorks, we showed in the last preview, and it's there and it's working. And a couple of ones that actually work a bit more robustly than SolidWorks. The Weldments toolbar in SolidWorks is the quickest way to, prescription medication.
Yeah.
So that was a really good preview. I mean, The only thing that we haven't showed and I would potentially want in a final release is some deeper integration into the drawing environment,
Right.
right? But other than that, for the 3D geometry generation, it's really powerful as it is.
Yes. Well, more drawing things are coming along, so stay tuned. I'm getting some noise from you, Costas. So I hope you don't mind if I'll put you on mute. Feel free to unmute yourself when
Yeah,
you're ready.
yeah, yeah. I'll see what I can do for it.
Sure. And then I'll share my screen here. So this is, in a nutshell, Weldments for those who have not seen it. Let me generate this to the last feature here. This is just a quick frame that I've been working on. And Weldments, if you don't know, are able to generate structural members or frame members from 2D sketches and being able to make useful frames such as this. These are able then to be made into even individual parts, which is in current development, or put into drawings or sent to manufacturers and so on. So when you need to make complex frames with tricky cuts, this is a great way to be able to do that quickly. And again, I'll run through with my other part exactly how to get that done. So I have a sketch on a 2D plane, but this can be a series of sketches, a series of 3D sketches, right? This frame over here was actually made from one individual 3D sketch starting here, but this can obviously be many sketches working together, which we'll see shortly. Oh, and I've shared the wrong video or wrong window back, so there we go. When I go to make a weldment and I start with a sketch, I am able to do a few things. First, I'm able to select a profile. Now, this is actually on Windows Explorer right now to select my profile, but I think that will be updated pretty soon. I'm going to go with C channel for this example, and I can choose these different figures, and I can choose things that are parallel, or I can choose things that form a contiguous path. So once again, I can click on a contiguous path just like that. Now this is looking pretty small, so this is a great time to show that we can update sketches as well. So if I drag my sketch out here and out here, then our weldment updates with the sketch, of course. We also have corner coping because having these being overlapping probably isn't the most realistic thing. So we also can add realism by, say, coping the corners like that. And I can reverse that as well. So we have multiple settings for that. And my personal favorite is I can do kind of an edge case where we do kind of a watertight mitered fit. Now, this is usually what we want to have. However, I may want to do something kind of special. Maybe I need to turn these 90 degrees. We have the ability to turn that weldment profile so it's all facing outwards, and we can do kind of strange angles, say at 30 degrees as well, and being able to fit those properly. I'll make these back to 0 for now and create a weldment. Now, I can go into my sketch here, and perhaps I want to meet that node right there and there to have kind of a diagonal member. When I go to add a weldment member, we are, of course, overlapping again. And this is kind of an interesting case because we obviously don't want to overlap. We want to model these so they fit together properly. And this is pretty easy to do because there is another tool called Extend and Trim. We have a body that we'd like to trim here, and I can trim it on these bodies. And these ones over here. And we also have the ability to hide our individual weldment bodies. We have a cut list being made in our tree, and we can hide these parts to see exactly how this is being cut. Another interesting point to point out, if I unhide some of these bodies, is that when we make these weldments, we may need gaps between our parts. And for that, we can also create a defined gap, right? But when I do that and regenerate, we can see that now our weldment is starting to fill that gap. And if that gap was for welding, this is not the result that we want. But we have a lot of increased flexibility with our trim tool. So I don't have to just use bodies to trim this. We also can remove all of this and trim on these planes, which is much more appropriate for this kind of fitment. Just like that. Now I do have another sketch floating around right here. Maybe this sketch is also a Weldment member that I would like to add. So I'm going to clean this up just a little bit here and make sure that we're actually at 0 gap. Roll it forward. And now let's take a look at adding a member on this. Now certainly we can continue with this weldment profile. I'm going to use something like a pipe for variety. So I changed this profile over to a pipe, and we can immediately see that we are not overlapping very well. So a few options when we go to make these weldments. The first one is when I make this original weldment structure, our profile has a series of nodes, and I'm able to select a node and get our sweep to change levels. Maybe I'll go from the exact center here. And when I roll it forward to take a look at our pipe, we can see that I think that's actually the original location. So I'll use this top end node here. We can see that our pipe is now sitting differently compared to what this is. Now, I need to go to my other weldment and make sure that I have added that like that. There we go. Our pipe is now sitting, well, above. So we can change the way that our sweep paths work with our weldments. This saves us a lot of time and effort in making dedicated sketches to try to position the different elements of our weldment. From here, I'm going to select this top node to get this pipe to be right on the top of that weldment. Now, when we trim to fit, that's a great tool, but maybe I'm in the opposite direction and I need my pipe to meet my weldment over here. Once again, we have flexibility that saves you a lot of time built right into this weldment module. I can select my body, and I want to say, I want it to go to meet these bodies, but instead of being trimmed, I want it to extend to those bodies. And sure enough, we've been able to do it. Likewise, I can still trim this body if I would like against this body so that I can get the output that I need. So weldments should be very powerful and versatile for everything that you are hoping to use it for, because we do we have a lot of that built in. So Max, is there anything that you think I should add? How are we looking here?
I think for now that's good. One thing that may not be obvious unless you've maybe used ever software that has this is a multi-body environment. And it's a very on the rails multi-body environment. But multi-body modeling within the same kind of part space can be really powerful for a lot of workflows. And this was our kind of foray into that area. So it potentially enables us as we move forward to kind of carry some of that multi-body functionality into other workspaces, which is something that we're kind of looking at. It's not currently planned, but it is interesting for us to kind of have done it and work through some of the intricacies associated with that. So that functionality might start to carry eventually into like the part modeling workspace, for example.
That's going to be a very exciting enhancement. I know I've gotten some YouTube comments that are excited about the possibility of being able to do multi-body modeling, and I think that's going to be a welcome thing for having worked through that in Weldments, getting enhancements like that for future versions. Absolutely. Anything in the comments that look interesting?
It's a good feature when I have no clue how I personally am going to use it, but the whole time I'm going, oh yeah, oh heck yeah, this is good. Oh my gosh, yeah. I love it.
I am definitely have it. Every time Joseph shows me this, I'm having squirrel moments. I'm going
Oh,
in
yeah.
my mind thinking, I've got this project I could do. I could do this. I could do that.
Oh, yeah.
There's so many things.
Yep.
Yeah, these are some very exciting enhancements. Common questions that we have had are, great, I care about this individual member. I have to ship this member off to my supplier, and if I make a drawing, is it of the whole weldment or can I do individual bodies? And that's what's currently in development. Is we are going to be able to get an individual drawing of this individual body with its individual tolerances and hole locations and things like that, built right
There
in.
you go.
What's nice, you may notice in my frame, this is an entire 3D sketch of a frame. Obviously, it could have been broken into multiple sketches if that would be easier. But we are also have on the docket to pattern and mirror some of these weldment features. And so really, I could make half of a frame and mirror that, which speeds up significantly a lot of development for symmetrical things as well. Other common questions that we have gotten that I'd like to cover are, if I put a radius on my sketch, maybe I can update that.
Yes.
So put in a sketch fillet, maybe around here. I'm going to update that quite a lot. Sometimes we have something like this, and I think I'm going to have to update my weldment feature to include. So what if I have something like this, right? This is going to be a bent member. So this, and this are all going to be a single member. It is also a plan to deal with that situation. So stay tuned. We're going to have some exciting developments around that. Don't think we haven't forgotten it, right? Because we're thinking about this frame, right? This is going to be a roll bar. So stay tuned for some exciting enhancements on that.
As I said in the previous preview we had of the Weldments workspace, the downfall of most of these tools is making roll cages. At least because of my interests, right? That's what I found. They don't do it. So, but I'm guessing it's the same for every situation where you cut and then you bend a member, right? Which for me it's roll cages, right? Somebody else might have another application of that sort, and if Alibre manages that, which it seems it's on the way to doing, oh, it's going to be awesome, man. I'm telling you. I'm telling you. And again, I see the cut list up there with the length showing. That's nice. I like it. I also like the look of it. Right? I like the look of it, and I like the
Yes.
information I'm getting, ready on the screen. On top of the information I can potentially get by digging into properties and measuring and stuff. So, but if I can get length of the bent member, that's where the win is. That's the ticket right there.
Absolutely.
I think it's cool how it just looks so intuitive. I've never used Weldments in anything, and just from your quick little 2-minute overview, I have a pretty good feeling of how to use it. Like, I'd have to kind of learn some of the minutia, but like 90% of it, I've just learned how to do it in Alibre in your little, 90-second little preview, which is amazing.
That's kudos to the development team, right?
Seriously,
to make something which is complex, easy to use. That's no insignificant feat, right?
Speaking of, I say this every time, but seriously, dev team, thank you guys. This is really, really good.
Yep.
Absolutely.
I mean, look, at the end of the day, I just had this conversation with a friend of mine who is also a mechanical engineer. He has a local company here. He's starting it, and he was trying to get a new CAD system, and he eventually got Alibre, right? And well, he's learning still, but what he said is it doesn't crash as much. And I'm like, What do you say? Really? Yeah, it doesn't. It just doesn't. Which, I mean, look, if you're doing a job with it, at the end of the day, things add up, right? So not crashing as much, uh, that's important.
That is really something to be said too, because I've, video editing software, for example, I've had crashes all the
Uh-huh.
time, and I've just got this habit of Control S, Control S, Control S. I'll do one little change, Control S, and whereas I still do that in Libre just from habit, I think I've had like one crash in the past 3 years, maybe.
Yep.
Like I'm sure that other people have had their own fair share, but that is crazy. Coming from a lot of other production software that just likes to hang and crash. And
Yep.
Again, dev team, thank you.
And I love this comment.
Seriously,
I said this last time, but it's worth reiterating. Even just from what I've seen, Weldments would have saved me so much time on the project I've been working on. Can't wait. Love these optimistic comments that really show the excitement that I have for it too. Can we get a tolerance simulator to see if all parts work or not? That's been on my mind for a long time. I not slated for this release, but it's a really cool idea, and so great minds think alike here.
Future request.
What else?
Although, to be fair, tolerance analysis is a theoretical tool, right? It's mathematical, and it's really RERO, right? Rubbish in, rubbish out. So, but still, if you've got the experience, it's a decent tool. It can help a lot, especially in larger assemblies.
Absolutely. It's at least a big time saver.
Yeah, for sure.
So I see another one here, but I just minimized my window.
We also have a. Hang on, let me go find the merch store here. We're being asked about it again.
There we go. Let's go to your screen.
I forget where it's at. Hang on.
It's not just hats. Not just hats.
I got a T-shirt here.
All sorts, right?
Give me a minute to find that merch store because
it's got some great shirts. It's got some great polo T-shirts. By the way, we should do a raffle. In one of these lives, we should do a raffle for some merch as well.
Ooh, that's a good idea.
Love that. Yeah,
that would be pretty.
There
cool.
we go.
All right, back to your screen.
It is alibre-llc.myspreadshop.com. There are indeed quite a few things. Actually, I got a mug here.
Yeah, exactly. Well. The fuel canister.
Got T-shirts. There's hats. Doesn't quite fit over my headphones, but there we go.
The hood is nice. Yep.
I got to get me a hoodie.
Yeah. Hood is nice.
I got to get me a hoodie.
And I can see this one. I got to show this one, right? You're a CAD master, Joseph. No reason why I'm showing this one. I use Weldments all the time for installation of battery systems. Looks like I can make a drawing for each part straight from this work. And that's that's the end goal. Yeah, there's your comments. So, well, that could be it. Does anybody else have any other questions? Let me know in the chat if you do. Alibre, should I get one with my purchase? Go for it.
You should get one with your purchase. Just not just not automatically.
I don't know, maybe that'll be like a Black Friday sale, free hat with purchase.
Yeah. That's nice. That's a cool idea.
Link in chat. Let me find it again. Hang on.
Yeah, in the meantime, we have a comment by Bruce Hane saying tubing can be CNC bent. I'm not gonna link it because I don't want Adam to lose his comment there. But he says tubing can be CNC bent, and that's exactly my point, right? It's a huge deal if you can get the length of the unbent one, so that you know how long to cut your tube, and put it in the CNC bender. That's great.
I see an interesting one here to Max. When did Alibre have a 99 US dollar drive for preview version? It was then I got hooked on Alibre.
Man, that was years ago. When we had first, God, that was a long time ago. We kind of briefly, I think, we had different product lines at that point, named different things. We had Alibre Design Standard, and I think we made that 99, and then we eventually came out with Atom 3D, which for a while was $99, but it's been years at this point, probably a decade.
Joseph, the link for the merch is in our chat because I can't post links in the YouTube chat.
I'll patch it in for you.
Thank you.
So I got a question about MechWay. I gave up what I was going to say there, but a question about stress analysis, so I can go through that too. I just let me grab that link here. All right, I don't know if someone can grab that link here. I'm going to jump into MechWay. So, very, very common one for stress analysis is MechWay. Let me change my screen here. This is actually MechWay. It's a lot like Alibre. And with MechWay, changing the comment again, there we go. This is actually a part in the Alibre format. So this is a full interoperability, import your parts in Alibre, don't save a step kind of interoperability that we have with MechWay. And they're a lot like Alibre in the sense of they're a buy it once, keep it forever kind of software with perpetual licenses. And it's quite affordable. So if you want to do stress analysis, that is a really good option. There's some free options, like FreeCAD has a built-in computational fluid dynamics module and finite element analysis as well. So those are some options, but MechWay is a really, I think, solid choice for doing these kinds of stress analysis. Hopefully that answers your question. I think there's a few others that have also made their software available for Alibre as well.
Joseph, what features are coming to the Pro version out of V29? Here's
Great question.
Asking.
Yeah, for V29, it's going to be the all-new user interface, and I think all versions are going to see the new UI primarily. And then Expert's going to have the new sheet metal notes as well. But no, everyone's getting a new UI for V29.
That's kind of what I was thinking, but I didn't want to jump the gun. Yeah, V29 is UI overhaul. There's not really in the way of correct me if I'm wrong, but there's not really in the way of new features or functionality. It's mostly all UI for V29. Yeah. Looking at new features in 29.1.
This one's for Max. When will Far Cry 7 be released?
The same day Half-Life 3 is released.
Yeah, Half-Life 3 and Star Citizen right around those guys.
Yeah.
The way we instantly went to the same place. Same day Half-Life 3.
That's great. Yep, I'm seeing tacos again. I'm busy not mentioning tacos.
Yes.
So making me hungry again. One of these times I'm going to bring tacos and have them.
That sounds good.
One should never...
Bill Black is going to be hungry because we'll be eating the tacos and he won't.
Well, is that everything, guys? I think it's about that time.
I
All
don't
right,
think I have
thanks.
anything to add other than standard stuff.
Yeah. Thank you to the wonderful, esteemed panel to whom you guys are accustomed. It was my first opportunity to join them, so this was a lot of fun. And thanks to everybody for joining as well. We're so excited. Again, go to the user forum, sign up, participate in the conversation. Use those little buttons at the bottom of the beta to say what you like and don't like. Keep in mind straight up feature requests like, oh, I wanted this change, but it's not in there. We're probably not going to pay too much attention to those at this stage. But if it's something that we've done, or something that is in line with what we've done, but maybe we missed something and you're like, hey, why didn't you do it to that particular thing? Like all that kind of stuff at this stage in the release is very valuable. If you have just a feature request, be sure to use the regular feature request mechanism. Otherwise, it'll just probably get pushed aside for now. So keep things focused on the beta, but we're excited to hear what you have to say and how you feel about it.
I'm
Thank you so much.
guessing LGRFBS means more times. So yeah, Max being on these more often is going to be great.
This has been fun. So maybe very, very, very possible I will do that.
Well, thanks everyone, and we are going to see you all in the next one.